So as we move forward, we're going to hear from Jakada Imani. He's the executive director of the Alameda Center for Human Rights. That organization has worked on a range of issues in terms of prison pipeline, environmental issues, and safety and stopping the violence here on the streets of Oakland. So I'm going to ask Jakada just for a few minutes your perspective on where we've been, where we are, and where we're headed. Please give Jakada Imani another round of applause if you would.
Good morning, good morning. I'm not exactly sure how I ended up on this illustrious panel, but I'm gonna try to do the best to hold up my end. So where we've been. I grew up during the height of the war on drugs in this city. And what I remember was hearing these stories from my mother about the Black Panther Party and about the movement in the Bay Area. But what I grew up experiencing was that some of my elders were afraid of me. What I grew up experiencing was going to community meetings where some of my elders would talk about, could the police arrest young Black men for loitering in front of their own homes because they were afraid of us. So what I grew up with was also knowing that I was a part of a community where people would see me out in the street, some of my elders, and say to me, what are you doing over here? Does your mother know you over here? You better hurry up and get your butt home. And I'd get home, my mom would say, Miss So-and-so saw you over in such and such place. Who said you could go over there? So I grew up with this dual consciousness, one being a part of a community that took care of me, and I grew up later in life as a part of a community that was beginning to fall apart, where people didn't know each other, where people were worried about what somebody else's grandchildren were gonna do to them. And so I grew up with this sense of a fractured city and a fractured community where we were beginning to lose unity, right? And the war on drugs, I think, made it worse. Crack caused our community a ton of problems, but the war on drugs made every element of it 8,000 times worse. It made the drug trade more violent, more profitable, destroyed our community in ways that we're still recovering from. And so for me, you know, that's part of the recent past of how I grew up. Where we are now is we're at an interesting moment because we've gone through this huge economic crisis, and we didn't really change the economy though. The main state of the debate around this economic crisis was, were we gonna bail out banks or were we gonna bail out homeowners? And while I'm all for helping people save their homes, and I think we should do everything we can to save people's homes, if we had bailed out homeowners, the money would have went to the banks. It would have stopped in people's checking accounts and then went on to the banks. That's not reorganizing our economy. That's not putting our economy back in the hands of working people. That's not putting our economy in the hands, taking our economy away from the hands of corporations who are trying to heat up the planet and buy elections. And so we're at a moment now where we really need to reorganize our economy such that it's in the hands of people and not in the hands of corporate interests. And so that's a tipping point. One of the other things is I believe we're beginning to, as a community, as Black people, come to consciousness about the impact of the war on drugs in our community. And not just seeing it as like the question about, you know, what were you doing standing on a corner? Why were you outside? Why were you kicking it on the street? But really understanding it as we understand education. We have a public safety system that is failing. A better mic. We have a public safety system that is failing our children. We have a public safety apparatus that's not designed to increase safety in our communities, but designed to sweep up our children into a prison industrial complex and make profit off of them. It sounds like y'all just uncomfortable. No, we're uncomfortable with this conversation. All right, I'm gonna keep going then. I'm on to something. So we're at a tipping point. And I think that we can turn it around. I think that you're beginning to see with Michelle Alexander's book, with what the Congresswoman talked about, that there is a movement afoot to actually do something about ending the new Jim Crow, which is this prison industrial complex, in a way that actually strengthens our community and reinvests those billions of dollars that are being invested in incarceration and locking up our communities into educating our communities, lifting up our communities. There's also something happening in terms of cooperative economics. And people, whether it's Mandela Food Co-op in West Oakland, or it's some of the shareable economy, or people are getting together and doing these time banks, there is a new economy bubbling up underneath. And so I think where we're going, though, is I think where we have to go is a place where we can figure out how to make multiracial, multi-class alliances as Black people. So, we have a moment where other communities of color are stepping up. And the lie that we've been told about Latinos is that they don't like us and that they're racist. And the lie that they've been told about us is that we don't like them and we're dangerous, right? And so that's meant that we be fighting over crumbs lots of different places and not working together to govern our communities collectively. And so I think the future is not in some sort of like pretend fake kumbaya diversity, but in real hardcore discussions about what are the interests of Black people in this city, in this state, and in this country. What are the interests of Latino immigrants and US citizens in this city, in this state, and in this country? What are the interests of Southeast Asian and Pacific Islander folks in this city, in this state, and in this country? And how are we gonna come together to actually govern this city, this state, and this country as a majority? Thank you.